Chapter 562. That's right, after Lu Se was chased out of the Shoshin continent, she must have passed through the flowing immortal platform and was banished to the Shoshin continent. Therefore, that shameless slut must also be from the cultivation continent. A puny cultivator of the Shoshin continent actually dares to dream of deeming Ju, to dream of becoming the master of the polar domain? Lung Qingwan's face twisted for a moment, then she took a deep breath and restored her cold and noble appearance. Master is right, this disciple has lost her composure. Even if a cultivator from the cultivation continent managed to seduce the sovereign lord, he would still be unable to obtain the approval of the polar domain's elders, let alone pass the god-punishing tribulation. She probably wouldn't even be qualified to be the god monarch's concubine. I really shouldn't have taken her to heart. That's right. Long Yuexia reaches out and pats her on the shoulder, saying in a deep voice, the most urgent task now is to find the successor of the Shin musician, kill her, and take away the Shin musician inheritance in her hands. As long as we have the inheritance of the Shin musician, the status of our Tian Min will be greatly enhanced, so much so that one day in the future we will be able to stand on equal footing with the polar domain. At that time, would you still be afraid that the position of the polar domain's mistress wouldn't be yours? Lung Qingwan nods heavily, her eyes bursting with a dazzling light. Master, rest assured, disciple will immediately send people to the Shoshin continent to find traces of the Shan musician's successor. At the same time, she would also find the vixen who seduced the emperor and tear her into pieces. However, they would never have thought that the place where Lu Se and Deming Ju returned to wasn't the Shoshin continent, but the barren Yinwu continent that doesn't have any spiritual power. Because even if you beat them to death, Lung Qingwan and Lung Yuexia wouldn't want to believe that Deming Ju would seal 90% of his cultivation and take the enormous risk of going to the Yinwu continent with his real body. As soon as Deming Ju leaves Tian Min's mountaintop, Ingmei waits at the mouth of the valley. Behind her was a handsome young man with a mischievous smile on his face. However, upon closer inspection, one could see the anxiety and worry in his eyes. As soon as they sensed Deming Ju's appearance, their complexions immediately change, and they hurriedly come to greet him. Junshang, how are you? Deming Ju waves his hand. His expression is still cold and detached, but it can't hide his pale, almost transparent complexion. He seemed to want to suppress it, but in the end, he still spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body swayed. Junshang, Ingmei and the ruffian youth hurriedly reached out to support him. The worry and helplessness in his eyes almost overflowed like a tide. I'm fine. I just need to rest for a while. Deming Ju says faintly, take me back to the polar domain's forbidden area and summon Elder Chang alone. Don't let other people in the polar domain know that I'm back. Junshang, Elder Chang isn't skilled in medicine after all. You'd better confess. The ruffian youth anxiously wanted to refute something, but in the face of Deming Ju's ice-cold and unwavering gaze, he swallows back his words in the end. Deming Ju looks at Ingmei and says in a somewhat hoarse voice, send a message to Hanyi, let him protect Mayan. If Mu Yin is injured in any way, he can wait to stay in the purgatory pool for the rest of his life. Ingmei quickly nodded. Yes, Junshang. Also, Deming Ju's body sways. His complexion is completely pale. Perhaps it's because of his weakness that his voice is unspeakably gentle. Bin Jun's injury. First, don't let Maya know. After saying this, Deming Ju can no longer support himself and loses consciousness. Chapter 563. Outside the polar domain's forbidden area. Elder Chang, how is Junshang? Is his injury serious? Seeing Elder Chang come out, several people immediately surround him. Elder Chang slowly exhales. He was injured by the backlash of Tiani Valley's great mountain guarding array, and then he used the burning heaven art to thoroughly burn his soul. His divine power was exhausted, so his injury isn't light. I'm afraid he'll need to recuperate for a while. Everyone's expression is indescribably grave when they hear this. That ruffian youth finally couldn't bear it, grabbing Ingmei's collar and angrily rebukes. Ingmei, what's going on with you and Hanyi? You clearly know that Junshang's real body is in the Yinwu continent, and that his strength in the Shoshin continent is less than 10%. Yet you guys actually let Junshang charge into Tiananmen alone? Although the master of Tian-E Min's cultivation is far inferior to Di Mingju's, Di Mingju's current strength is only 10% of his original strength. Fortunately, they didn't make a move today. Otherwise, the rumor that Di Mingju has lost his cultivation would spread throughout the Xiaoxian continent. At that time, the consequences would be unthinkable. Xinglang, calm down. How can Ing Mei and Han Yi interfere with Jun Shang's decision? Elder Chang berates, what's more, if Jun Shang hadn't made a move, how could he have intimidated the master of Tian-E Min with one strike, making her not dare to act blindly without thinking? Otherwise, the identity of the Shen musician successor would have been known by the master of Tian-E Min long ago. Xing Lang tightly frowns, his expression indignant. What Shen musician successor? She's just a mortal. What virtue or ability does she have to actually let Jun Shang get injured for her and take such a big risk for her? If it weren't for this Jun Mayan, Jun Shang wouldn't. Xing Lang, shut up. Ing Mei suddenly speaks, coldly interrupting him. I don't care how you reprimand me and Han Yi. We didn't protect Jun Shang. I'm willing to accept any punishment, but I won't allow anyone to slander the miss, not even you. You? Xing Lang glares at Ing Mei in shock and anger. You've only been with that mortal for a few months, and she's actually hooked your soul? What kind of joke is this? Isn't it just a... Xing Lang. This time, even Elder Chang spoke coldly, his expression indescribably chilling. The Lord is inside. If you're not afraid of dying without a burial, you can continue. Fear appeared on the Star Wolf's face, and then it twisted for a moment. With a hateful wave of his hand, he left. Humph, Jun Mayan. Wasn't she just a mortal girl? What's so great about it? He must go to the lower realm and meet this woman. He'd like to see what kind of ability this woman has in the end. Not only has she mesmerized Jun Shang, but even Ing Mei and Han Yi are also captivated by her. Star Wolf looked at his own hands, slowly opening and clenching them, his smile cold. He would definitely let that woman know that being the mistress of the polar domain wasn't that easy. However, not long after, Star Wolf would regret his decision today, so much that he wished he could kill himself with a piece of tofu. At the same time, Yinwu continent, Huangyao. The dark and gloomy underground gave off a thick stench of decay and blood. In the center of the underground, hundreds of corpse soldiers stood in rows, their bodies rotting and reeking with a strong killing intent. Gong Qianxue sat on the high platform, looking down at the powerful, corpse soldiers, a satisfied expression on her face. Dr. Qian, what do you think of my puppet soldiers? Chapter 564. Each of these corpse soldiers has a cultivation base above Earth stage. But this isn't the most frightening thing. The most frightening thing is that none of them are afraid of death or pain. Even if their hands and feet are cut off, they can still fight bravely. Even if they're really dead, as long as the child goo in their bodies are drawn out, they can still create another corpse soldier. Gong Qianxue proudly raises her eyebrows and suddenly claps her hands. Immediately, someone steps forward and throws a tall man into the crowd of corpse soldiers. As soon as the man lands, he immediately glares at Gong Qianxue with hatred. His whole body soars into the air and recklessly pounces towards Gong Qianxue. Gong Qianxue, you vicious woman, return my father and mother's lives. However, before the man can soar, the corpse soldiers below him have already swarmed up. The man desperately revolves his internal force to resist, but in the end, he is outnumbered. He quickly consumes all his internal force and is pressed down by the corpse soldiers. Mournful screams come from below. Qian Qing looks down at the man whose flesh is being bitten off by the corpse soldiers and can't help but shiver. This time, besides admiration and envy, his face also carries a trace of fear. These corpse soldiers are really too powerful. In this way, in this Yinwu continent, who would still dare to oppose the princess? Gong Qianxue claps her hands again, and as a result, practitioners are sent into the pile of corpse soldiers one after another. And they, without exception, are all torn to pieces by the corpse soldiers. Even their skin and bones are completely eaten. In this terrifying and bloody atmosphere, Gong Qianxue has a leisurely expression. She stretches out her slender fingers and gently fiddles with her neatly trimmed nails. she says with a smile. Although these corpse soldiers are powerful, their numbers are still too few. Bingong got a batch of goo insects from Lu Se that are specially used to raise corpse soldiers, but these goo insects need a special method to be raised. That's why I asked Dr. Qian to help. Qian Qing stares blankly, becoming even more fearful and fearful. Princess, please speak. It's easy to raise a corpse soldier's child goo. It's enough as long as it's a fresh living body. But the mother goo needs the mildest internal force to be raised. Then they will swallow each other and finally become the Goo King. The mildest internal force? Gong Qianxue looked at him meaningfully. In this world, is there anything gentler than the profound energy of doctors and alchemists? After all, the profound energy of other martial artists is used to kill people, but the profound energy of doctors and alchemists is used to save people. Thump. Qian Qing sat on the ground with a terrified expression. Princess, this subordinate is loyal and devoted to you. You wouldn't use this subordinate's body to raise goo, right? Gong Qianxue said with a smile. Dr. Qian must be joking. I'm well aware of your loyalty to me. Why would I want your life? Ben Gong wants those doctors in your Xian medical pavilion. She didn't finish her sentence. Suddenly, a scream came from below. Originally, it was very normal for the corpse soldiers to scream. But this voice was very special. It was neither a man's nor a woman's voice, but a unique sharp voice that seemed to be able to pierce through one's eardrums. When Gong Qianxue heard this voice, her expression changed. She abruptly stood up and looked down. One of the corpse soldiers suddenly burst into flames. After a few short breaths, that corpse soldier, along with the goo insects in its body, was completely burned away. And this seems to be a signal. Chapter 565. One by one, several hundred corpse soldiers spontaneously combusts without any fire. No, my corpse soldiers. Why? How could this be? In the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, the corpse soldiers below have been completely burned. Not even a bit of ash remains. On the contrary, the last person that Gong Qianxue's subordinates threw down, only a few pieces of flesh were bitten off of his hand, and he's still alive and well. Gong Qianxue blankly stares at the empty ground below. Her eyes are wide open, her breathing is short, and she can't come back to herself for a long time. How much manpower and material resources did she invest in these corpse soldiers? How hard did it take to raise them? Moreover, she still had to endure that disgusting woman Lu Se, constantly fawning over her, calling her sister. But now, her several years of painstaking effort, her beautiful dream of dominating the Yinwu continent, has been completely destroyed in an instant. Why? Why did the corpse soldiers die? Aren't corpse soldiers supposed to be immortal? Gong Qianxue roars hysterically, her beautiful face hideous and terrifying. Suddenly, she seems to have thought of something, and her complexion turns snow-white. It's the Mother Goo. The Mother Goo is destroyed. Lu Se is dead? That waste Lu Se is actually dead? How could she die? Who killed Lu Se? Who destroyed my corpse soldiers? Gong Qianxue screams. A gloomy and vicious murderous aura diffuses from her body, making everyone retreat. After a long time, Gong Qianxue's face slowly calms down. But in her eyes, there's a cold glint of extreme resentment and resentment. It's Jun Mayan. It's that woman again. Lu Se left to kill that woman. I didn't expect that she would actually kill her instead. Jun Mayan, you slut. Why do you have to oppose me again and again? Princess. Qian Qing suddenly cautiously steps forward, lowering his voice to say, Princess, this subordinate also knows this Jun Mayan. She passed my Xian Medical Pavilion's senior doctor's exam, and she also killed my disciple in public. Gong Qianxue's cold and gloomy gaze slowly turns to him. Do you have any way to deal with this slut? The corner of Qian Qing's mouth slightly lifts, revealing a faint arc. Doesn't the princess need a doctor to raise the Mother Goo? This subordinate believes that the Junji Medical Center's doctor is the best choice. Hearing this, Gong Qianxue's eyes brighten slightly. That's right. Without these corpse soldiers, I can raise another batch. Not just the Junji Medical Center's doctors. Immediately gather all the doctors in Yinwu continent in the name of Xian Medical Pavilion. At that time, Qing laughed cruelly in a low voice. At that time, these doctors will either pledge allegiance to you, princess, or they can only become nourishment for the mother goo. Princess, you hold Jing Chang country's army in your hands. You have Heavenly Road Sect and Master Jianfeng as your backup, and you have all the doctors in the world become your subordinates. Why worry about not being able to unify the Yinwu continent? When Gong Qianxue heard this, she laughed in a low and carefree manner. His anger at the destruction of the corpse soldiers he had carefully raised seemed to have lessened a lot. But when she thinks of Jun Mayan, she still gnashes her teeth, revealing a sinister smile. Jun Mayan, hee, since you're so capable, then Ben Gong will let you become the host of my mother goo. Jun Mayan, Qing murmured in a low voice. She frowned slightly as if she wanted to say something. Why did this name sound so familiar? It seemed like he had heard it a long time ago. Chapter 566. He looked at Gong Qianxue as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, after hesitating for a long time, he swallowed his words. No, that's impossible, right? That Jun Mayan can't be that person from back then, right? Back then, he had diagnosed that the girl who was pregnant with an immortal spirit fetus couldn't possibly still be alive, right? Perhaps it was just the same name, or perhaps it was just a homonym. In the end, Qing resisted the urge to speak her mind. He couldn't wait to take a look at what Jun Mayan looked like. Don't worry, princess. Leave this matter to me. This subordinate guarantees that all the doctors in the entire Yinwu continent will be in the princess's pocket. That Jun Mayan will definitely not be able to escape from the princess' palms. Gong Qianxue smiled coldly and nodded. Neither of them noticed that at the top of the underground palace, there was a pair of eyes staring at them from a small gap. Bai Yichen raised his head and frowned. A look of worry flashed across his face. He has to think of a way to inform Mu Yin and be careful of Qing. After dealing with the golden silkworm goo, Mu Yin didn't do anything else. She just hugs Xiaobao and sleeps next to Dimingju. When she opened her eyes, the man's handsome face was right in front of her. His expression was so serene, as if the years were peaceful. Mayan was momentarily stunned, unable to come back to her senses. After a long while, she heard Little Treasure's soft voice. Mother, Mayan abruptly comes back to her senses. She smiles and lowers her head to kiss her precious son on the cheek. Since the last time the Tian Emochin was repaired, in addition to the mountains and rivers, there was also a spring in the space. Although the spring water was very shallow and did not have any special function, but for Mu Yin and Xiaobao, they were still very happy. This was because their days in the space had become more comfortable. For example, washing up. She turns her head to look at the little baby, who's carved from jade, puffing his cheeks to help him rinse his mouth. Mu Yan's playful heart is aroused, and she can't help but reach out and poke him. Water immediately sprayed out of Little Treasure's pouting mouth. As soon as the dirty water touched the ground, it immediately disappeared without a trace. The self-purification ability of this space was very strong. Even rabbit's poop, if it wasn't deliberately collected, would be immediately absorbed. Xiaobao helplessly glares at Mu Yin before he finishes washing up and obediently wipes his face dry. He even reaches out to wipe Mayan's fingers. This appearance of taking care of people like a little adult simply makes Mayan extremely rare. Smiling, she picked up Xiaobao and kissed his soft and tender cheeks a few times before turning around and walking into the tower. This time, he was surrounded by danger in the battle, and the temporary display of power of the seven sword spirits. This makes Mayan realize how important the growth of spiritual power is for her, the successor of the Shun musician. However, the Yinwu continent doesn't even have spiritual power, so naturally, there are no related exercises. Even now, she didn't know what her spirit cultivation level was. Unfortunately, at this time, Dimingju isn't here and Han Yi, this guy, is particularly unreliable. He understands spiritual power, but because he was born in the Shoshin continent, he skipped over Xiozha all of a sudden. As a result, he doesn't understand the cultivation method of the early stage of spiritual power at all. In desperation, Mu Yin remembers the book in the tower in the space. There were all kinds of books inside. Some were useless, but some were very useful. Chapter 567. However, after being busy for half an hour, she still hasn't found a single useful cultivation secret book. Mayan is a little depressed for a moment. Bunny. Xiao Bao, who is watching Mayan busying herself on the side, suddenly says to the rabbit in his arms, "Help Young Qin find books." The rabbit lazily turns over and shakes its short paws. It says, "Bunny wants the little master to knead and hold it high, then go find books." After a moment, Mayan sees a snow-white rabbit suddenly leap into the air. In the towering tower, there's an endless bookshelf. But this bookshelf is completely empty. There's not a single book. Why did the fat rabbit fly up there? As she's thinking about this, Mayan sees the fat rabbit's small and plump figure suddenly become bigger and thinner. Dazzling light and shadow are projected from the top of the tower. Vaguely, she can see a giant beast, its whole body stretched out. The fur of the giant beast is snow-white, but there's a strange crimson totem on its forehead. That appearance is really indescribably awe-inspiring, beautiful, and holy. It's not the least bit similar to the fat rabbit's silly appearance that only knows how to eat. Bang! After a loud noise, the two books fall straight down from the sky. The pages of the books naturally flip open due to the fall. Under the turbulence of the air, they make a flapping sound. Almost at the same time, that snow-white behemoth suddenly shrinks, like a punctured balloon. It falls straight down along with the books. Thud! Mayan catches the books, and Xiao Bao catches the fat rabbit. The fat rabbit yawns tiredly in Xiao Bao's arms and rubs its furry round face against it. Then, it snores away. Xiao Bao strokes the fat rabbit's fur and looks at Mayan with his sparkling blue eyes. Young Qin, last time. The classic of supreme drafts was knocked down by the rabbit like this. Even though Xiao Bao has already told her about it, Mayan is still a little shocked to see it with her own eyes. Just now, when the rabbit had become bigger, she had felt a powerful pressure that made her tremble. Moreover, just by looking at that gorgeous and domineering appearance, she knows that the fat rabbit's origin is absolutely not simple. Suppressing the bewilderment in her heart, Mayan looks at the two books in her hands. On the covers of the two books were written in clerical script, "Perfect Body Forging" and "Perfect Anidia." Mu Yan's breathing quickens. She recalled that in her previous life, Gong Qianxue had once told her that the 9-stage lightning tribulation was the process of tempering the body and nurturing the soul, the process of shaping the spiritual root. The body-forging pill that Gong Qianxue had poisoned was to assist in the formation of the spirit root. Then what is Anidia? Could it be a higher level of spirit cultivation? Feeling a bit nervous, Mu Yan slowly flipped open the first book, Perfect Forging Body. As soon as the book opened, Mu Yan and Xiao Bao immediately felt a majestic and mellow energy assaulting their faces. The book in his hand suddenly disappeared, and a circle of light about the size of an adult's head appeared in front of him. A few lines of words were clearly displayed on it. Spirit Wave Ball with Cultivation Aptitude. What is this? Holding Xiao Bao's hand, Mu Yan cautiously approached the thing. Below that line of large words, there was another line of small words. Those with poor aptitude will suffer irreversible damage when undergoing perfect body forging. Therefore, only by passing the test of the Spirit Wave Ball can one read the perfect forging body. They actually need to pass the test to be able to cultivate it. Chapter 568. She immediately puts her hand into the circle of light. She doesn't know if this so-called Spirit Wave Ball is dangerous or not, so she doesn't want Bao Bao to casually touch it. As soon as her hand enters the circle of light, Mu Yan feels a cool and refreshing energy pouring into her body, making her feel so comfortable that she wants to sigh. But before she can sigh, the holy and pure white ball of light actually starts to flicker with a dazzling red light. It's accompanied by beep 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 warning sound. Immediately after, a line of blood-red characters emerges from the ball of light. Your aptitude for cultivation is too high, exceeding the verification limit of the Spirit Wave Ball. Please quickly withdraw. Please quickly withdraw. Otherwise, this ball will be scrapped. What the hell? Mu Yan quickly retracts her hand and suspiciously asks. Then, Do I have the qualifications to practice perfect forging body and perfect inedia? After she retracts her hand, the red light and the warning sound disappear. As if it heard her question, a line of words appears on the ball of light. If your aptitude can't reach perfect forging body, then no one in this world can. No, I don't think there's anyone in this world with a higher aptitude for cultivation than you. Mu Yin becomes more and more suspicious. This so-called spirit wave ball can actually answer her. Isn't it a bit too magical? Just as she is thinking, she sees Xiao Bao suddenly take 2 steps forward and curiously extends his chubby little hand towards the white ball of light. After 3 breaths, the spirit wave ball makes a loud bang and disappears without a trace. Immediately after, 2 books, plus a small round ball, fall onto Mu Yan's hand. The 2 books are Perfect Forging Body and Perfect Inedia. What's different from before is that after these 2 books are opened, there's a normal concentration of mental cultivation methods, and there's no longer any spirit wave ball. Mu Yin opens the Perfect Forging Body and reads 10 lines at a glance. Many of the questions in her heart are easily solved in this instant. The spirit refining body realm is divided into 10 levels, and now she's actually at the 7th level of body refining. Moreover, because of her special spiritual roots, Mu Yan's body refining is a perfect forging body. In fact, her body refining process directly absorbs the essence of the 3 realms and is 100 times stronger than the so-called perfect forging body. But Mu Yin is still very happy to get this book. With the help of the spirit vein, Xiao Bao would be able to perfectly temper his body. On the other side, Xiao Bao was curiously looking at the small round ball that had fallen. Mommy. He raised his little face and revealed a puzzled expression. Mommy, why did Qiuqiu explode? Mu Yin doesn't have time to answer. He heard a weak sobbing voice coming from the small ball. Chapter 569. But just now, the psychic wave ball was also burnt. Boo-hoo. Qiuqiu is going to be homeless. Mu Yin stares blankly. Is your master a member of the Shen musician clan? The ball in Xiao Bao's hand shines, as if it's nodding, yes. Qiuqiu's master is the last leader of the Shen musicians. Master is a good person, but there are so many bad guys who want to beat her. Boo-hoo. Those bad guys are so annoying. Boo-hoo-hoo. The little ball speaks incoherently, and in the end, only the sound of crying can be heard. Finally, don't cry. Xiao Bao says with a cold face, you're a real man. How can you cry? But Qiuqiu is not a male phoenix. Qiuqiu is a female phoenix. If it turns into a human form, Qiuqiu is a girl. So Qiuqiu is not a real man. Boo-hoo. Xiao Bao chokes for the first time, making Mu Yin on the side unable to help but laugh. No, whether it's a man or a woman, in any case, don't cry. What do you want? There's a trace of helplessness in the cold, childish voice. Qiuqiu. Qiuqiu needs a new host. Otherwise, Qiuqiu's soul will soon perish. The little ball rolls around in Xiao Bao's palm. Little brother, your breath is so warm and comfortable. Can Qiuqiu temporarily reside in your body? Qiuqiu guarantees that it will always be obedient. If you don't let Qiuqiu speak, Qiuqiu will never speak. Mu Yin raises her eyebrows. Reside in Xiao Bao's body? She slightly narrows her eyes. You won't harm Xiao Bao, will you? I won't. Qiuqiu immediately makes a fawning sound. Qiuqiu is the condensed form of the phoenix primordial spirit. Residing in a person's body, not only will there be no harm, but it can also use the phoenix fire to temper and improve the host's physique, and can even save the host when he is in danger. Unless the host breaks through the realm of cultivation and transforms into an immortal body, my phoenix primordial spirit and it will reject each other. Little brother, pretty sister, what Qiuqiu says is true. Can you believe Qiuqiu? Mu Yan's mouth twitches. This little phoenix calls Xiao Bao little brother, but actually calls her pretty sister. Should he say that she was stupid, or that she was especially good at sweet-talking? When Qiuqiu saw that they didn't speak, it thought that they were unwilling, so it hurriedly continued. If you still don't believe Qiuqiu can sign a spiritual pet contract with Little Big Brother and recognize Little Big Brother as its master. In this way, you should know that Qiuqiu won't harm Little Big Brother, right? Establishing a spiritual pet contract? Mu Yin raises her eyebrows and is about to speak. Little Treasure's little face was already taut as he said, "Will you be able to make me stronger quickly if you reside in my body?" "Inn, Cho guarantees that you will definitely become stronger than before." "All right, I agree." Mayan is startled. Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao raises his delicate and pretty little face, looking at Mayan with childish admiration, but his expression is incomparably resolute. Nyang Qin, Xiao Bao must quickly become stronger. Only then can he protect Nyang Qin. Also, I can't let that lecher monopolize Nyang Qin. After receiving Xiao Bao's approval, the small sphere suddenly exploded. A strange totem slowly appeared in the air. The totem was shaped like a Tai Chi symbol. However, what separated the two ends was not black and white yin and yang, but a phoenix and a phoenix. Chapter 570. Xiao Bao cuts his finger and drops his blood in the center of the Tai Chi diagram. In a split second, it's radiant. Almost at the same time, two huge fiery wings unfold behind Xiao Bao. The delicate and indifferent little face is reflected in the flames, looking incomparably dignified. Mu Yin stares blankly for a long time, until the fiery wings dissipate. Only then does she wake up, looking at her son, who has returned to naive attachment in an instant, throwing himself into her arms. Mu Yin painfully treats the wound on his finger and can't help but sigh. Her baby's luck is always very good. Entering the fog forest, he can casually find rare drafts. Casually picking up a rabbit, it's an unknown mythological beast, and it even swallowed Gong Qianxue's sacred beast egg. Now, testing the aptitude of his spiritual root, he actually abducted a phoenix as a spiritual pet. Oh, although it's a very childish little phoenix without a physical body. In the following time, Mu Yin has a rare, relaxed, and comfortable life. The Ghost Wind Valley has been completely renamed to Ghost Flame Valley, which makes Han Yi very happy. He repeatedly says that if Jun Shang comes back, he will be very happy. For half a month, apart from cultivating, Mu Yin also instructs the doctors on alchemy. Until even Dr. Wang and the others can refine second-grade elixirs, most of the doctors are satisfied and grateful to leave. Before leaving, several doctors surround Mu Yin and chatter for a long time. "You're a little girl. You must be careful in the Ghost Wind Valley. Although that man looks good, you can't just look at a man's appearance. The most important thing is his conduct. Don't be deceived. Xiao Bao is still young. If she can't take care of him alone, she can come to them." Mu Yin has been chattering away for a long time. She has a big headache, but she can't help but feel grateful and warm. In her life, she had rarely enjoyed the care and concern of an elder. Even if it's the Shun father, the amount of time he spends with her is very little. The only one who gives her the most care is probably her foster mother, Zhang Xiuying, who has passed away for many years. Therefore, she has long regarded these doctors as her own family. After sending off the doctors, Yin Haoyin, Ru Yin, and the others also arrived with a large group of people. After finding out that the entire Ghost Wind Valley belonged to them, Ru Yin and Old Tao were simply so happy that they almost went crazy. "Miss, are you serious? The entire Ghost Wind Valley will be our base in the future? Heavens, this is the Ghost Wind Valley that is the easiest to defend and hardest to attack in the entire Yinwu continent. There's a natural barrier, and there's also the poison smog as a cover. Is it really ours?" Before Mu Yin could reply, Han Yi has already corrected her with a smile. "Remember, this place is no longer called Ghost Wind Valley. From now on, it will be called Hell Flame Valley." Hearing the name Nether Flame Valley, Ru Yin and the others looked at each other and revealed meaningful smiles. Even the taciturn Feng Haiting pursed her lips and said, "This name is really not bad. This will be our home from now on." Mu Yin blushes a little under their understanding gazes. But when she heard the word home, she was still a little dazed. Home? Ever since she was set up to get pregnant, she had been wandering from place to place. She no longer knew what home was or where she was. Now, was she and Xiao Bao finally going to have a family? Chapter 571. Or, Deeming Jews. Touching her somewhat hot cheeks, Mayan coughs softly. The ghastly Flame Valley covers a very large area. It was originally used by the Ghost City to train the Ghost Lord's trusted aides. Nowadays, the number of people in the Heavenly Secret Unit, in the Ink Camp, isn't small. It's not enough for these people to just rely on medicine. They need to constantly train and improve every day, and they also need opportunities for actual combat. I know. Ru Yin excitedly raised her voice. In the Ghost Wind Valley. No, that's not right. In the Netherflame Valley, there's a crying ghost mountain. There are all kinds of fierce beasts inside, as well as all kinds of natural dangers. It's used to train our divine secret battalion soldiers. Just now, it just so happens. Ru Yan's words had yet to finish when she saw Yin Haoyan walk out without a word. The swiftness of his movements was completely different from his usual dull appearance. Ru Yin suddenly had a bad premonition and quickly asked, Yin Haoyan, what are you going to do? Guan Hu, who's following behind Yin Haoyan, turns around and says with a mischievous smile, Miss Rian, compared to your Tianji unit, our Ink Camp needs Weeping Ghost Mountain as a training ground even more. Nowadays, the people of our Ink Camp are used to seeing blood. An ordinary battle array is simply not enough for them to warm up. This place, Weeping Ghost Mountain, is more than suitable for us. The Ink Camp is the first force to form around Mayan. After going through several actual battles, plus taking on a lot of mercenary missions, those veterans of the Ink Camp are no longer the gangster slaves who came out of the Wanren coup. Now, for them, the drafts and zither sounds that used to make them wish they were dead, they can now completely endure it without batting an eyelid. They even wish they could endure it a few more times. What they lacked the most right now was actual combat. Therefore, they were determined to obtain the Weeping Ghost Mountain. Didn't they see that even Commander Yin, who had always been quiet and had no sense of existence, was anxious this time? Bastard! Ru Yin jumped up. I was the one who suggested it first. I reserved the Ghost Weeping Mountain first. Don't snatch it from me. Heh, first come first served. Miss Rian wouldn't be unaware of this logic, right? Bye-bye, you. However, before Guan Hu could finish speaking, a figure had already dashed out like a bolt of lightning. Ru Yin also hears Fang Jingya's quiet voice. First come, first served, we got it first. Commander Yin and Captain Guan, don't fight with us. After being rescued by Mayan, Fang Jingya has completely regarded herself as a spy. Therefore, she focused on cultivating her observational skills and lightness skills. Therefore, in the blink of an eye, her figure had already disappeared without a trace like a wisp of green smoke. Fuck. Commander, let's quickly chase after them. Not waiting for Guan Hu to finish speaking, Yin Haoyan's figure had already disappeared without a trace. Seeing this, Ru Yin burst into laughter and chased after them. Watching them leave, a gentle smile appeared on Feng Haitong's cold face. Suddenly, she looks at Mayan and says softly, Miss, thank you. Mu Yin raises her eyebrows, her expression languid. Thank me for what? Thank you, for giving Haoyan a new life. That was a true rebirth. It didn't just give Yin Haoyan life. It also gave him the hope of survival and happiness. However, it was obvious that the pain of the past had slowly faded. So why was Hao Tian still unwilling to accept her? Chapter 572. The smile on his face is gradually replaced by sadness. Mu Yin sees this scene and wants to say something, but she sees Dr. Song hurriedly coming in, followed by Chun Qingfeng. Most of the doctors in the ghastly Flame Valley have left. Only Dr. Song and Dr. Wang stayed behind. First, it's to study Professor Mu Yan's alchemy and refining special drafts. Second, it's to help Mu Yin sort out the ghastly Flame Valley's medicine storehouse. It should be known that Ghost King Guyu didn't say that he would give the entire Ghost Wind Valley to Mu Yin for nothing. That is, the valley, the poison smog, and all the materials inside. All given to Mu Yin. Not to mention other things. Just sorting out those rare and precious herbs would take a huge amount of manpower and material resources. Now, besides herself, Chen Xingfeng is the only one around Mu Yin who knows medicine. So Dr. Song and the others volunteered to stay. During this time, Chen Xingfeng, who has been learning from Dr. Song and the others, also benefited a lot. Little girl, this old man and the other doctors have to go back first. What's wrong? Mu Yin stares blankly. Seeing a trace of worry on their faces, she quickly asks, "Is there something wrong?" "It's not a big deal." Dr. Song shakes his head. "It's just that this old man received news that a plague has appeared in Lotus Flower Town in the north of Jingcheng country. Although not many people died, there are a lot of people who are sick." Dr. Du and the others sent a message, saying that they have rushed to Lotus Flower Town, but there are still too few doctors. They are too busy, so they asked us to rush over to help. "A plague has appeared in Lotus Flower Town?" Mu Yin frowns, puzzled over it. In her previous life, because she trusted Gong Qianxue and followed her, she spent most of her time in Jingcheng country. At that time, she had never heard of a plague in Jingcheng country. But then, Mu Yin shakes her head. It could also be that the plague was not serious and was quickly cured, so it did not spread. After all, in her previous life, her medical skills could not be considered particularly outstanding. "Dr. Song, why don't I go with you? Although it may not be serious, it is a plague after all. As a doctor, the most important thing is to help the world and save people." Mu Yin has always guarded this point. Even when the hatred is at its deepest, she has never given up. "No need." Dr. Song waved his hand casually. According to Dr. Du and the others, although it's a plague this time, the illness isn't as serious as imagined. After they prescribe the right medicine, the patient's conditions are much better. There's no need for you to do anything at all. Seeing that Mu Yin is still deeply worried, Chen Qingfeng says from the side, "Miss, we all know that the little Gongzi is going to advance during this period of time. It's a critical juncture. You can't be distracted. Why don't I go with Dr. Song? If the condition is really serious, I will come back to inform you." That's right, Xiaobao was currently trying to break through to heaven rank. However, this was not the main point. The main point was that after Mu Yin discovered the perfect body forging manual, she started to let Xiaobao cultivate next to the spiritual vein. The mental cultivation technique taught in the perfect body tempering art was called the heart source style body tempering art. In Xiaobao to be, he do to be, he has yang, he, the clan, he has, two. He, half, he has, two. Chapter 573. Therefore, during this time, Mayan really can't be distracted. Finally, she nods and says, "Okay, then Dr. Song, be careful. These drafts and elixirs are life-saving. Take them with you, and if you encounter any life-threatening danger, take them." Haha, little girl loves to worry. This old man is very powerful. How could there be danger so easily? Rest assured, when this old man has solved the plague, I will come back to your Hellfire Valley. At that time, don't despise this old man. Watching Dr. Song's back slowly disappearing into the mist, Mayan can't help but hold her heart. Her heart is pounding nonstop, and her mind is inexplicably swirling with an ominous premonition. Is it because you haven't come back yet? She looks up at the blue sky, her eyes carrying a longing that even she herself isn't aware of. Demingju, are you safe? Don't forget, you promised me that you will come back. Jingcheng country, Lotus Town. There's a rancid smell coming from the dim underground. There's a cage separated by iron bars, each holding a person. Each of them is bony, and their breathing is weak, as if they could faint at any time. If Mayan were here, she would find that Dr. Song, Dr. Du, and Chen Qingfeng, who left Hellfire Valley, are all here. But unlike half a month ago, Dr. Song and Dr. Du are now haggard and thin. Their complexions are ashen, carrying a deathly aura, but only their bellies are bulging, as if they're pregnant. In particular, Dr. Du and the others, who left Hellfire Valley earlier, are so thin that they're almost out of shape. A thin layer of skin wraps around the bones, and the whole person seems to have aged by several decades. Princess, these are the doctors who are raising the Mother Goo. Now, there are 68 Mother Goo being raised. Once these Mother Goo break out of their bodies and devour each other, the real golden silkworm goo will be born. On the narrow path, Qin Qing leads Gong Qianxue forward, proudly saying, "These doctors were deceived by this subordinate with the news of the plague in Lotus Town. Among them are Dr. Song and Dr. Du, who are very skilled in medicine. Their internal force really provides excellent nourishment for the mother goo. Qian Qing hadn't even finished speaking when Dr. Song suddenly pounced out of the cage and roared, "Bastards! You bunch of bastards!" For his own selfish desires, he actually disregarded the lives of an entire city's citizens. That was tens of thousands of commoners. Tens of thousands of commoners. You actually turned innocent people like them into corpse soldiers. How dare you? Aren't you afraid of retribution? Qian Qing sneered, looking condescendingly at Dr. Song, whose belly was bulging as if he had gone mad. What I cultivated for Princess is the most precious golden silkworm goo. You should feel honored to become its nourishment. As he speaks, Qian Qing fawningly looks at Gong Qianxue. This subordinate guarantees that these mother goo would only need another month at most to break out of the abdomen. At that time, Princess, your millions of corpse soldiers would be able to sweep across the Yinwu continent. However, Gong Qianxue doesn't reveal any good expression. Instead, she coldly glances at him. Junmayan? Why isn't she here? Chapter 574. Those who wanted to break in never came out again. Trash? Gong Qianxue coldly glances at him. If you can't enter the Ghost Wind Valley, you have no other way? Qian Qing stares blankly, becoming even more terrified. He sees Gong Qianxue suddenly clap her hands, and very soon, a group of black-clothed people come over, dragging a group of people. Each and every one of these people are dressed in rags, their bodies riddled with scars. It's very clear that they've gone through a fierce fight. Qian Qing's gaze suddenly falls on the face of one of the youths, revealing a bewildered expression. He hears Gong Qianxue coldly say, "Do you know who these two are?" She points to two of the unconscious people. He sees that these two have the lightest injuries, and they're protected by those people riddled with scars. One of them is relatively young, with a handsome appearance. The other is already middle-aged, but also has an extraordinary temperament. Qian Qing's gaze unblinkingly stares at that youth's face, his expression becoming more and more bewildered. Finally, he couldn't help but raise his voice to ask, "Princess, who is this person?" Gong Qianxue slightly narrows her eyes and says, "I've already sent people to investigate. Although that slut Junmayan is surnamed Jun, she's the Shun family's adopted daughter. And that slut still values her adoptive father and brother, leaving a lot of people by their side to protect them. Especially this brother." Heh? Gong Qianxue raises her foot and heavily steps on Shun Jinglin's arm. Shun Jinglin immediately lets out a cry of pain, opening his eyes. Seeing the scene before him, Shun Jinglin doesn't panic, but coldly glares at Gong Qianxue. "Who are you? Why do you want to capture me?" Before Gong Qianxue could speak, she sees Qian Qing suddenly stride forward, staring unwaveringly at his face. "Young Master Shin, do you still recognize this old man?" "You." Shun Jinglin slightly frowns as he looks at him, seemingly finding him somewhat familiar. After a long time, he suddenly widens his eyes. "You're the doctor who diagnosed my sister that day. Why are you here?" Hearing his answer, Qian Qing suddenly stands up. He doesn't even care that Gong Qianxue is in front of him, throwing his head back and laughing. This is really wearing out iron shoes in fruitless search, finding it by chance without even looking for it. Gong Qianxue frowns at him. "What are you talking about?" "Princess." Qian Qing's voice trembled with excitement. "Do you remember how I discovered the immortal fetus? It's because a young girl didn't know she was pregnant. Under the guidance of her brother, she came to seek treatment. From her pulse, I detected the unique fluctuation of immortal qi in the world." Gong Qianxue's eyes widened a little. Her originally beautiful eyebrows and eyes almost popped out due to extreme excitement and greed. "Are you saying that the woman who was pregnant with the immortal spirit fetus back then was Junmayan?" Qian Qing nodded repeatedly, his eyes reddening. When this subordinate heard the name Junmayan, "I felt that it was familiar, but I thought it was just a coincidence. I didn't expect it to be true." Unexpectedly, it was really the woman who was pregnant with the immortal fetus. "Princess, this subordinate has heard that Junmayan has a 4-year-old child by her side all year round, calling her Nyangqin. In this way, that child's age matches up. In other words, Chapter 575. Congratulations, Princess. Congratulations, Princess. That immortal fetus belongs to the princess. It will eventually return to the princess's hands. Gong Qianxue couldn't bear it any longer, facing upwards and laughing. Junmayan, so it's you. You escaped back then, but now, you can no longer escape from the palm of my hand. I will definitely refine you mother and son into an elixir to help me on my path to blue sky. Ha 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 ha. What are you talking about? Shen Jinglin seems to understand what she's saying, suddenly raising his voice. What do you want to do to my sister and nephew? Gong Qianxue's gaze slowly falls on Shen Jinglin, the corners of her mouth hooking up into a cruel smile. Junmayan is currently holed up in the Ghost Wind Valley. It would be troublesome to catch her. I don't think a soft lure will work. It would be better to directly send a gift to Junmayan. Saying that, a cold light flashes in her hand, and a sword appears in her palm. She slants at Shen Jinglin's hands and feet. Tell me, should I cut off Junmayan's most beloved brother's hand and send it to her? Or cut off his foot and send it? How about this? It would be better to cut it off and send it over. I believe that Junmayan will definitely like it very much, and then obediently rush over. Shen Jinglin's pupils suddenly contract. Beside him, Changyu and the Ink Camp people have woken up from their trance. Their faces are aghast, and they crazily want to rush over. Stop, you're not allowed to hurt our Gongzi. That's the person that the Miss and Little Master had instructed them to protect. Gong Qianxue disdainfully laughs, and the sword in her hand falls. But she sees a figure recklessly rush over, blocking Shen Jinglin's body. Ink Camp soldier has a long gash cut from his heart to his abdomen, and blood splatters everywhere. He doesn't reveal a trace of fear or despair. Instead, he turns his head to look at the unharmed Shen Jinglin and closes his eyes with peace of mind. Shen Jinglin lets out an almost insane howl, struggling with all his might to break free from the ropes binding him. If you have the ability, then kill me. Just kill me. Gong Qianxue casually flings away the bloodstains on her sword. She kicks away the Ink Camp soldier that's crawling over to protect Shen Jinglin and chuckles. You're the gift that I want to give to Mayan. How could I casually kill you? Don't worry, I'm only going to chop off your limbs. There are many doctors around, and they won't let you die. You're worse than pigs and dogs. You will suffer retribution. When Dr. Song and Chun Qingfeng saw this, their eyes widened. They wanted to rush out, but they were powerless. They could only watch helplessly as Gong Qianxue's sword fell into Shen Jinglin's hand. At this moment, there was a loud bang and a plume of smoke rose into the sky from where they were standing. Then, a white figure rushed in like a ghost, quickly picked up Shen Jinglin on the ground, and fled. Who is it? Gong Qianxue let out a shriek. The profound energy in her hand suddenly waved out, and a storm swept through. In an instant, she blew away the white smoke. But when she looked over, all she could see was a white figure. Gong Qianxue gnashed her teeth and said, "Who is that person? How could he enter this underground palace?" The black-clothed man standing next to Gong Qianxue said in a low voice, "Princess, if this subordinate didn't see wrong, that should be Bai Yichen." Chapter 576. Bai Yichen? Gong Qianxue squeezed out those 3 words from between her lips and teeth, and sneered, "What a good Bai Yichen, to actually dare to betray this Gong. Duoyin, give chase for Bingong. You must dismember this traitor Bai Yichen into 10,000 pieces, and then bring Shen Jinglin back alive." Bai Yichen was merely at the peak of heaven stage, while Duoyin was a high-level Xiantian. Killing Bai Yichen was as easy as flipping a palm. "Yes, princess." Duoyin accepted the order and immediately chased after her. Hellflame Valley. When Mu Yin came out of the space, it was already half a month later. She didn't expect that when she was using her Shen musician skills to help Xiaobao advance and warm up his body, she herself would also reach the high pre-celestial level. Therefore, she entered secluded cultivation with Xiaobao. By the time she opened her eyes again, half a month had passed, and she had finally reached the pinnacle of the Xiantian realm. She was only a step away from tempering her body and soul, and tempering her body with the lightning tribulation. It was just that others tempered their bodies and refined their souls in order to reconstruct their spirit roots. However, her spirit root had already taken shape, and her spirit cultivation had already reached the 8th stage of body tempering. So, what kind of changes would happen to her body when the lightning tribulation tempers her body? He lowered his head to look at Xiaobao, who was still in seclusion. He had long since broken through to high-tier heaven tier, but he still hadn't come out of seclusion. I wonder what kind of realm my darling will reach after this closed-door cultivation. After carefully inspecting Xiaobao and making sure that there are no problems, Mayan leaves the space. Miss, you're finally out of seclusion. Seeing Mayan come out, Ru Yin hurriedly steps forward, her face full of worry. Mu Yan's heart couldn't help but thump. Sure enough, she heard Ru Yin say, Miss, something happened in Tianyuan City. Old Master and Young Master are gone. What? Mu Yan's complexion changed. You said that father and brother are missing. What do you mean? Ru Yan's entire face is filled with shame as she says, Our Tianji unit actually has manpower in Tianyuan City, but because Master and Gongzi are protected by the people from the ink camp, plus with the medicine that Miss left behind, we thought that there wouldn't be any problem. Until a few days ago. In one night, the Shin family and the people in the Junji Medical Center all disappeared. We didn't even find a corpse, but we found traces of a fight. I'm afraid. Old Master and Young Master Shun are in trouble. Father and brother. Why didn't you inform me earlier? Mu Yan's voice suddenly rose, her face filled with anger and anxiety. Ru Yin wanted to say something but hesitated. But Miss, you and little Gongzi are both in closed-door training. I'm afraid that if I inform you, Mu Yin takes a deep breath and suppresses the irritation in her heart. She understood what Ru Yin meant. At such a crucial moment of advancement, if he were to tell her such news and distract her, or even cause her to go berserk, the consequences would be unthinkable. However, Ru Yin didn't understand what big brother and father meant to her. Especially her brother. How could she allow her brother, who was once riddled with holes, to suffer any more harm? Miss, I'm sorry. It's all this subordinate's decision. Ru Yin knelt down with red eyes. Miss, if you want to blame someone, blame me. Feng Haiding also knelt down. I didn't let them disturb you. Yin Haoyin and Old Tao both knelt down. Chapter 577. The corner of her mouth slowly hooks up into a bloodthirsty curve. Her voice is incomparably pleasant, but it can make people feel cold all over. I'd like to know who dares to touch my, Jun Mayan's people. Ru Yin promptly says, reporting to Miss, this subordinate had the Tianji unit investigate overnight. In the end, they didn't find out who kidnapped the Shin family and the Junji Medical Center. But the Tianji unit did find some clues of a large group of people. One of them seems to be heading in the direction of Jingcheng Country's Lianhua town. Lianhua town? Mayan stares blankly, slightly frowning. Why does she feel that this name is somewhat familiar? Suddenly, her pupils suddenly contract. Lianhua town. Isn't that the town where Dr. Song and the others went because of the plague? Ru Yin nods and says, Miss, this Lianhua town is very strange. It's said that there's a plague, but this subordinate has investigated, and there's not the slightest sign of it spreading out from Lianhua town. However, none of the doctors who rushed there came out, and there's not even the slightest bit of news. Mayan's complexion becomes more and more unsightly. Could it be that not only did something happen to her brother and father, even Dr. Song and Chen Qingfeng also met with an accident? Miss, a person from the ink camp hurries in, bowing and saying, Miss, there's a group of people several kilometers away from the Hellfire Valley, and they seem to be chasing after 2 people. Miss, should we make a move? Mayan slightly narrows her eyes, suddenly standing up and saying, Let's go out and take a look. Outside the Hellfire Valley, Bai Chen can't remember how many injuries he's suffered. During these 3 days and 3 nights of fleeing, his clothes have been soaked in blood again and again, coagulated and dried, and then dyed red again with new blood stains. The most dangerous time was when Duo Yen, a peak pre-celestial, caught up with him and gave him a fatal blow. He risked it all and jumped off the cliff with Shan Jinglin. In a situation of certain death, he took the life-saving medicine that Mayan gave him and finally made it through. Duo Yin had never thought that he could survive. However, he doesn't think that Shun Jinglin is dead. So he sent his guards, dozens of heaven stage and above practitioners, to chase them all the way down the cliff. Duo Yan's men obviously didn't expect that Bai Yichen would still be alive after receiving Duo Yan's fatal blow. But he didn't take him seriously. It was true that Bai Yichen was at the peak of heaven rank, but among them, there were more than 10 peak heaven stage warriors, and even 3 and 8 stage warriors. Even if Bai Yichen and Shun Jinglin had 3 heads and 6 arms, it would still be impossible for them to escape from the palm of their hands. In order to successfully escape the pursuit, Bai Yichen had no choice but to take Shun Jinglin to hide in the Wuwang Mountains. The Wuwang mountain range stretches for thousands of miles. Qiyin country has it. Jingcheng country also has it. All of the Wuwang mountain ranges have a special characteristic. At night, all the most ferocious exotic beasts would come out in packs. Even an inborn expert would be trampled to death like an ant under the attack of thousands of beasts. But Bai Yichen had no other choice. If they didn't take Shun Jinglin to hide in the Wuwang mountain range, they wouldn't even be able to hold on for an hour. They thought that the two of them would easily die in the Wuwang mountain range. Unexpectedly, a miraculous scene occurred. When the beasts got close to Bai Yichen, they would suddenly sniff the air with their noses. Then, they would reveal a terrified expression and flee without a trace. Chapter 578. What the strange beast was afraid of was not him, but a black bead on his body. This black bead was given to him by Xiao Bao when they parted in the Wuwang Mountains. Xiao Bao said that this was a gift from Rabbit. Bai Yichen did not expect that it would leave him and Shun Jinglin a chance of survival. It turned out to be this inconspicuous black bead. It took 3 nights for Bai Yichen to bring Shun Jinglin here, but in the end, it could only be here. The internal force in his body had been completely consumed. The cut on his leg had already severed the blood vessels in his thigh. Blood gushed out like a fountain, dyeing the grass below red. Bai Yichen's body swayed. The excessive blood loss made his vision blurred, and his whole body became cold little by little. He knew that he couldn't make it this time. You, hurry up and leave. Bai Yichen glanced at Shun Jinglin. His voice was incomparably hoarse, but it was indescribably calm. Not far ahead is the Nether Flame Valley. That is Mu Yan's territory, once you enter. You will be safe. What nonsense are you talking about? Shun Jinglin let out a roar like a trapped beast. You became like this in order to save me. How can I leave you behind? Bai Yichen chuckles softly. His face is stained with blood to the point where it's almost impossible to see his true appearance, but he reveals a gentle smile. Ever since Sitong left, in fact, I've long since wanted to die, to be able to give Gong Qinshuet a little trouble, to be able to rescue Mayan's brother. I'm already perfectly satisfied. He turned to look at Shun Jinglin, and there was a trace of sadness at the bottom of his calm eyes. Tell Mu Yin for me, a gentleman will die for his bosom friend. After Sidong's death, I am still struggling at death's door, for revenge, and also because she and my fellow brothers supported me, but I'm sorry. Bai Yichen, thank her for choosing me, but I probably can't be the leader of her Great Void Battalion. Let her find someone else. I won't help you convey it. Shun Jinglin clenched his teeth, but he couldn't help but shed tears. Bai Yichen, listen. If you want to say something to Yin Yin, just tell her yourself. I will never help you convey it. Also, don't forget that you haven't gotten your revenge yet. How can you die now? With a clang, Shun Jinglin swung away the sword of one of them, but the other one swung at him from the other side. After all, he was only at the Earth realm. That strike, which contained boundless pressure, caused him to spit out a mouthful of blood. The hand he used to block the attack let out a crisp, cracking sound and fell to the ground. In fact, if it wasn't for Gong Qinshuet saying that Shun Jinglin must be captured alive, he had already died 100, 1,000 times. But if it was just to chop off his limbs and bring him back alive, it was possible. The person who attacked Shun Jinglin laughed and said, "Don't be so modest. Don't worry, none of you will escape. Bai Yichen, you have betrayed Her Highness. You must die. As for Shun Jinglin, the princess only wants you to live. It doesn't matter how you live. After I cut you into a human swine, I will remove your limbs and throw them into the Hellfire Valley. After that, I will bring you to report to the princess. How do you think the princess will reward us? Chapter 579. However, the expected scene of his arm being chopped off and blood splattering everywhere did not appear. Shin Jinglin only felt himself being ruthlessly pushed away. As he staggered, he saw Bai Yichin blocking in front of him. A sword pierced through his heart. However, Bai Yichin firmly grasped the sword and looked back at him, his expression calm and resolute. Have you forgotten what our biggest purpose is? It's not to save your life, but to tell Mayan the news. Do you really want to let our efforts all go to waste? Yeah. Shun Jinglin looked at the sword that had pierced Bai Yichin's body, his eyes suddenly turning crimson. Not only did he not turn around and run away, he recklessly rushed over. His roar carried a bloodthirsty madness. Bai Yichin, let me abandon my brother and escape. Only if I die. Rather than cowardly seeking survival, I would rather perish together with this group of animals. Ha 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 ha. Dozens of black-clothed men laughed together. Their laughter was full of disdain. The leader calmly lifted the sword that had pierced through Bai Yichin and lightly swung it. Bai Yichin, who had already been skewered on the sword, could only be swung back and forth powerlessly. Good. I'm standing right here. Come and kill me. An Earth stage waste actually dares to hoot at us? Animals, I'll kill you. At this moment, Shun Jinglin's internal force frantically burst out. He no longer cared whether his body would be injured or not. He only wanted to dismember the scum before him into 10,000 pieces. The leader's cultivation was at the early pre-celestial level, and he just looked at Shun Jinglin casually attacking him. Bai Yichin, who was still swinging his sword, did not even intend to block. However, at this moment, he suddenly heard a melodious music. That music seemed to come from the horizon, piercing straight into people's hearts. The leader of the black-clothed men was dazed for a moment, and then he heard a poochie sound. It was the sound of a sharp blade piercing into flesh, accompanied by a sharp pain in his chest. He slowly and stiffly lowered his head. Looking at the sword that had pierced through his chest, he looked at Shun Jinglin, who was holding the sword and piercing him. His face slowly floated with disbelief. Why? Why was he pierced by the sword of an earth-rank trash? Why did he die at the hands of a piece of trash? However, he could no longer get an answer. The last thing that remained in his field of vision. It was a huge army that suddenly rushed out from the direction of the Hellfire Valley. His companions beside him let out miserable screams one after another, and the sound of heads rolling on the ground could be heard. Yin Yin. Seeing the beautiful girl rushing over, Shun Jinglin's hoarse voice almost broke into tears. Yin Yin, quickly save Bai Yichin. Quick, save him. It's all because of me that he, Shun Jinglin's trembling gaze fell on Bai Yichin, who was not far away. The man could no longer hold back his hot tears as they flowed down, only to see the person who was still like an orchid in a jade tree a few days ago, the former #1 genius of Yinwu continent. Now, it was as cold as a corpse. The original color of the white clothes on his body could no longer be seen. All that was left was a patch of blood red. On the contrary, his face and lips were as pale as a piece of paper, without any signs of life. Chapter 580. Touching the ice-cold skin, and the almost disappeared pulse under the skin, makes her heart sink a little. This isn't a fatal injury that can be saved by a life-saving draft. Rather, the vitality in his body is already close to nothing. It's like a person's birth, old age, sickness, and death. It's almost irreversible. Yin Yin. Shun Jinglin looks at Mu Yan's face, his voice trembling a little. Will he die? Even you can't save him? No, I will save him. Mu Yin resolutely replies, but there's not enough time. I won't be able to rush back to Hellfire Valley to save him. You guys. She looks at the people of the Ink Camp who came out with her to kill the enemy. You guys, gather everyone in Hellfire Valley to protect me. Before I finish saving him, don't let anyone come within a radius of 5 miles. Remember, within a radius of 5 miles. Yes, miss. The people of the Ink Camp quickly take the order and retreat, forming a huge encirclement to protect Mu Yin and Bai Chen. Seeing that the surrounding people have disappeared, Mu Yin enters the space without hesitation, takes out the Tian Mo Qin, and gives it a heavy knock. Qi Huang, come out. After a moment, a lazy voice is heard, impudent. Do you think this sage is someone that you can call at will? The phantom of a stunningly beautiful youth appears in front of her, glaring at Mu Yin with an unkind expression. Mu Yin is completely in no mood to pay attention to him. I remember that among the third-level Shun musician skills, there's a skill called Saint of Benevolence, which can transfer one's vitality to others. Isn't that right? Hearing that, Qi Huang frowned slightly. You want to use the Saint of Benevolence skill? You should know that this skill is one of the most powerful auxiliary skills of the Shin musicians. Even if you've really reached the third level, using it will still be risky, not to mention if you want to use it beyond your level. Don't talk nonsense, just tell me. Can you let me use it beyond my level? Mu Yan's expression is indescribably calm. As for the price, I will bear it myself. From the moment I became a doctor, I was prepared to give up some things to save patients. What's more, Bai Chen became like this because of her brother. How could she watch him die and not save him? Qi Huang looked deeply at her for a while, his expression a little dazed. After a while, he said, "All right, I promise you." With that, Qi Huang waved his hand, and a ray of light entered Mu Yan's body. Seven Brilliance, on the other hand, seemed to have consumed too much energy and instantly dissipated. Mayan felt something flash in her mind, and then it suddenly filled up all of her thoughts. Everything about Saint's benevolence was clearly reflected in her mind, as if it had been engraved into her soul. Without a moment's delay, Mu Yin quickly leaves the space, takes out the Tian Mo Qin, and gently plucks the strings. With the sound of the zither, countless specks of light appeared like fireflies. Little by little, they were sent into Bai Chen's body. Most of the light spots floated out of her body and entered Bai Chen's body. The sound of the zither continues for half an hour, and Mayan's complexion becomes paler and paler. Cough, cough, cough. Bai Chen coughed a few times and opened his eyes. His pale face actually had a tinge of redness. Chapter 581. Then, his eyes fall on Mayan's face, and his expression becomes peaceful and grateful for a moment. Mayan, you saved me again. Mayan gently shakes her head, looking at his unscathed appearance. Her pale face shows a weak smile. You're wrong. It should be me. Thank you for helping me again. Why is your face so bad? Bai Chen's face suddenly changes. Is it because you saved me? Mayan waves her hand. I'm fine. I just overused my internal force. I'll be fine after a rest. Bai Chen is about to ask again when Shen Jinglin and the others discover that the sound of the zither has stopped. They rush over like lightning. Seeing Bai Chen standing well, Shen Jinglin's tears almost come out again. Brother Bai, you're still alive. You really came back to life. Yin Yin, you really saved him. Yin Yin. Before Shen Jinglin can finish his words, he sees his sister's body sway not far away. She can no longer support herself and softly falls down. Mayan feels like she's walking in a white mist. Everything in front of her seems to be covered with a layer of gauze, and she can't see clearly. Suddenly, not far from her, a zither appears. The sound of the zither emits a sparkling light, and there are a lot of light spots above the zither. Some of the light spots are as bright as stars, and some are so dim that they're almost invisible. Mayan is wondering what these light spots are, when suddenly, she hears a soft and melodious female voice. June Mayan, you are very good. You're willing to give up your own vitality and take the risk of using a skill that's beyond your level to save a person who has no relatives or friends. You already have the most precious skill of a doctor, divine hands of benevolence. Mayan suddenly turns around and looks around. Who's talking? However, the voice doesn't seem to hear her question at all, and continues to speak. Originally, the Shen musician's third-level skill can only be activated after reaching the realm of Yanidia. But your divine hands of benevolence has triggered the opportunity one left in the Tian and Mo Qin. So I will make an exception and unseal the Shen musician's third-level skill in advance. I hope that one day, you can avenge the Shen musicians and also pass on the Shen musicians' wish to save the world and the people to everyone in the three realms. Let them know that the Shen musicians are not demons, but the saviors of heaven and earth. Mu Yan's pupils suddenly widen, unlocking the god musician's third-level skill in advance. Who exactly are you? However, before she could finish her sentence, everything in front of her disappeared without a trace. She hears Shun Jinglin's anxious voice. Yin Yin, how are you? Mayan opens her eyes and sees Shin Jinglin, Bai Chen, and everyone else who are so anxious that they're about to cry. She was in a daze for a moment, then revealed a slight smile. Don't worry, I'm fine. I'm just exhausted. Not only was she fine, but she had also profited from her misfortune. Using the saint's benevolence, above her level will unexpectedly trigger a lucky chance, allowing her to unlock all the skills of a level 3 Shun musician in advance. Moreover, the vitality that she had lost had all returned just now. Mu Yin only takes a cursory look at the skills of a third-level Shen musician and is shocked by its power. This time, no matter who schemed against her and hurt her loved ones, she would make them pay a painful price. And the several backbones of the Ink Camp and the heavenly secret unit behind the two of them are so excited that each and every one of their faces are flushed. Miss, do we really have to go against Jingcheng country's most powerful princess? What? You don't dare? No. I just feel that it's too fucking exciting. Too exciting. This group of shameless things, they actually dared to sneak attack our brothers in Tianyuan City and even captured Chief Changyu. They dared to provoke our Ink Camp. They're simply tired of living. That's right. If we can turn the entire Jingcheng country upside down, wouldn't our Nether Flame army be famous all over the world? I think it should be infamous, right? Heh. Isn't it good to be infamous? This is in line with the nature of our Ink Camp. Let's go kick the soft eggs of those turtle grandsons. That's right. Kick the soft eggs of those rolling grandsons. Wherever the Nether Flame army goes, they are invincible and invincible. The Nether Flame army is invincible and invincible. Chapter 583. Ru Yen respectfully kneels down. The Heaven Secret Battalion is willing to listen to Mrs. Orders. Feng Haiteng and Old Tao also knelt down. The Everlasting Battalion is willing to listen to Mrs. Orders. After settling in the Netherworld Flame Valley, the Ink Camp and the Tianji Camp were merged into the Netherworld Flame Army, and a special camp was set up to focus on alchemy, doctors, and support. This is the Longevity Camp, headed by Feng Haiteng, who is currently studying medicine with Mayan, and assisted by Old Tao and Chan Qingfeng. Bai Chen took a deep breath. She put her right hand on her left chest and slowly knelt down. The Great Void Battalion is at your disposal, Mississippi, at this moment, the invincible Nether Flame army that would sweep across the three realms in the future and strike fear into the hearts of everyone had formed its first embryonic form. As for the people of the Yinwu, Xiujin, and Xiuxian realms, at this very moment, they still don't know what kind of earth-shattering change this frightening army will bring to them. Mu Yin looked at the people kneeling on the ground, and an uncontrollable warmth surged in her heart. Originally, when she established the Ink Camp, she just wanted to use them for revenge. It only took them 5 years. Once Gong Qianxue is eliminated and her great enmity is avenged, she plans to disband the Ink Camp. However, it would appear that she was unable to abandon these people, nor was she willing to part with them. Because unknowingly, these people had already become her relatives, her family. That's right, it's family. Mu Yin takes a deep breath. I'll give you 2 hours. After 2 hours, head to Lotus City. Yes, miss. The crowd retreated like the tide. Shun Jinglin looked at his little sister, who was close at hand. His heart was proud and distressed. He was proud of the soft and cuddly little girl who used to follow him around, but she had already grown up to be like this. The dazzling radiance was so dazzling that no one could conceal it. His heart ached because his sister had to go through so much hardship and suffering to grow up to this point. Mayan turns around and sees Shun Jinglin's distressed expression. Thinking that he's worried, she couldn't help but faintly smile. Rest assured, Father and the people of Junji Medical Center will be fine. Dr. Song and the others will also be fine, because I will not allow anything to happen to them. Shun Jinglin repeatedly nodded and said, Yin Yin, Big Brother believes in you. Big Brother also believes that Gong Qianxue, that vicious beast, will not have a good ending. Hearing this, the arc at the corner of Mu Yan's mouth deepened, but the light in his eyes seemed to have condensed into 10,000-year-old ice. Qianqing, Gong Qianxue. I originally planned to give them a little more time to struggle at death's door, but they don't seem to appreciate it. Since that's the case, I'll let them know the consequences of touching the people around me. Jun Mayan, Jingcheng Country, Lotus City. The usually bustling town was now like a ghost town, and the air was filled with the stench of decay. Indistinctly, there were stifled cries of despair. If someone were to enter this city, they would be shocked to discover something. In this Lotus City, the most luxurious street was the boundary, and it was divided into two parts. In the east, the citizens of Lotus City were hiding from the shivering citizens. Every single one of them was sallow and emaciated, and they looked terrified and despairing. As for the western side, it was completely empty. There were only a few thousand people standing on the huge square. No, perhaps these thousands of people could not be called people, because they did not have the slightest vitality of a living person. His eyes were lifeless, and his skin had already begun to rot. Chapter 584. Those aren't living people, but corpse soldiers, cultivated by goo worms. It's just that compared to Gong Qianxue's corpse soldier team, although there are many of them, they're very weak. Spare me. Doctor, I don't want to become like that. I beg you. Let me go. On the street between the east and west, a wretched-looking man is sitting on an armchair. Behind him are dozens of black-clothed men with profound cultivation. This person is Qianqing's medicine boy and confidant, Qian Ping. Hearing the cries of the common people on the east side, he cracks open his mouth, revealing dark yellow teeth and an eerie smile. These will be Princess Qianxue's most powerful corpse soldiers in the future. How can you say that they're neither human nor ghost? To be able to become the princess's subordinates, to help the princess conquer the world, you should feel honored. Suddenly, Qian Ping's voice pauses, his left cheek twitches, and he darkly says, Oh, that's right, I almost forgot. What about the group of doctors we brought back from Tianyuan City? It's time to raise more mother goo. Very soon, several dust-faced, battered, and exhausted old men are brought over. Among them, there are quite a few doctors in charge of the Junji Medical Center. The black-clothed men escorting them rudely push them to the ground. Dr. Yu's forehead knocks against the rock, blood immediately flowing. He shakily lifts his head and looks at Qian Ping. You? Who are you people? What do you want to do? Qian Ping sneers. What I want to do, you'll soon know. Saying that, he waves his hand. The black-clothed men immediately each take a brocade box and walk over to the doctors. Arriving in front of the doctors, the brocade box is opened, revealing an ugly bug about the size of a fingernail inside. You, what do you want to do? Dr. Yu cries out, but he's pinched by the chin. The black-clothed men expressionlessly stuff the bug into his mouth. Ugh, let me go, ugh, ugh. As soon as his chin is released, Dr. Yu desperately wants to vomit out the bug. But the worm seemed to have a mind of its own. As soon as it entered his mouth, once it enters his mouth, it immediately bites through his flesh and burrows inside. Qian Ping watched with satisfaction as all the doctors ate the mother parasite. Then, he smiled and said, Okay, now, let them start preparing for treatment. His gaze swept across the doctors who were trembling in fear. As they wailed and begged for mercy, his laughter became more and more carefree. Do you know? The mother goo of the golden silkworm goo could only be fed by the mildest doctor's chi during treatment and refining. But fortunately, we don't lack patience here. Doctors, do your best to treat the patients and raise our mother goo. Ha ha ha. Qian Ping waved his hand. Immediately, a black-clothed man walked to the east side of Lotus City citizens. His hand rose and the knife fell. In the blink of an eye, nearly 100 civilians were lying in pools of blood. Their limbs were either broken, or their bones were broken. Some even had their stomachs cut open and half of their internal organs dug out. Every single one of them walked up to Dr. Yu and the others, barely breathing. What are you waiting for? Qian Ping smiled faintly. The patient is right in front of you. Don't you plan to treat him? However, these doctors were only ordinary doctors. Seeing such a scene, they had long since been scared out of their wits. All of their faces were filled with shock, and they couldn't even budge. Chapter 585. As soon as Qian Ping's voice falls, the black-clothed people surrounding the doctors unsheathe their swords one by one, looking terrifying. The doctors are so scared that their souls almost fly away. They scramble over to the patient's side and begin to operate their internal force to treat him. However, as they treat him, a terrible scene happens. The doctors' bellies become bigger and bigger, and their flesh and blood seem to be being devoured, their bodies becoming thinner and thinner. Especially those doctors with low levels. Right now they're all skin and bones. Their eyes are completely sunken, and their grizzled hair falls down in clumps. They look like they're already a dried corpse. Suddenly, that person falls down, his body twitching violently, and from inside his body, there's a mumbling sound, as if it's a refusal. Immediately after, his stomach split open, and a black worm crawled out of it. Immediately, the black-clothed people step forward and collect the worm that crawls out. Qian Ping looks at the doctor who's already breathed his last in disgust and sneers. Can't even hold on for a quarter of an hour. What's the use of this kind of waste not dying? After saying that, he kicks the doctor's body, sending him directly into the pile of corpse soldiers on the west side. In a split second, those corpse soldiers swarm over and gnaw the doctor's body clean. The air is deathly silent. Then, slowly, there's a tremble of panic, as well as sadness and despair, filling the air. Whether it's the doctors or the people who have been turned into corpse soldiers, they're just fish under the chopping block, without the slightest chance of survival. All right, this wave of treatment is over. Switch to the next. Qian Ping waves his hand. As a result, the rescued people are fed with goo children, slowly transforming into corpse soldiers. And the other people of Lotus City who haven't been saved once again become rations for the corpse soldiers. No, I won't save them. Finally, a doctor can't stand it anymore and roars hysterically. Kill me if you have the ability. Kill me, I'm a doctor of the Junji Medical Center. You're so insane. The Enchantress of Medicine will definitely not let you off. Huh? Junji Medical Center? The Enchantress of Medicine? Qian Ping lets out a loud laugh. Do you know who my master is? That's Qin Qing, the miracle-working doctor. How dare an insignificant doctor compete with my master and the princess? Let me tell you, I was afraid that your enchantress wouldn't come. If she dares to come here, I'll make sure she dies without a burial place. At that time, the princess and his master would definitely look at him in a new light. As soon as Qian Ping finished speaking, suddenly, a loud bang sound came from the direction of Lotus Town's gate. Everyone turned to look at the source of the voice. A group of people dressed in elegant sky-blue robes walked in one after another. Every single one of these people had outstanding looks, and their attire was either noble and graceful or elegant and otherworldly. If one looked closely, they would discover that the two words, heavenly secrets, were embroidered on the corners of their clothes. Qian Ping couldn't react for a moment. Where did these people come from? How did they break such a heavy iron door? But before he could ask, above the walls of the Lotus Formation, densely packed figures began to appear. These people were all tall men dressed in black. Each and every one of them looked ferocious and didn't conceal the cold killing intent on their bodies in the slightest. Chapter 586. Who are you people? Qian Ping quickly took a step back and hid behind the guard, looking at the two people in bewilderment. As soon as his question falls, he sees that no matter if it's upstairs or downstairs, the people of the Ink Camp and the Tianji unit all scatter to the sides. From the gate tower to the bottom of the city wall, they make a wide path. The melodious sound of the zither floats in the air. Soon after, several silhouettes seem to descend from the sky, slowly descending from the passage that the Ink Camp had left behind. The leader was a young girl dressed in white. Her skin was as white as snow, emitting a sparkling radiance under the sunlight. Her eyes were sparkling, and the corners of her eyes were slightly raised. It was as if she was infinitely charming and calm. Qian Ping swallowed his saliva and stared blankly. He had never seen such a beautiful girl before. Just by looking at it from afar, it was as if his soul had been hooked away. No matter who this person was, if he could get his hands on him and have some fun, he would be more carefree than an immortal. However, as the girl got closer and closer, Qian Ping's expression began to become bewildered. Why did the girl in front of him look so familiar? Only when she was only 30 feet away from Qian Qing did the young girl leisurely stop. Her red lips curled up slightly, and a faint smile appeared on her beautiful face. I heard that you're looking for me? The bewilderment in Qian Ping's heart grew heavier and heavier. His gaze fell unblinkingly on her face. You? Who exactly are you? Madam Enchantress, you've finally come to save us. Suddenly coming back to his senses, Dr. Yu and the others throw themselves in front of Mayan with snot and tears all over their faces. There's fear and shame on their faces. Qian Ping suddenly widens his eyes. You're the Enchantress of Medicine, Jun Mayan? Ru Yin, who is standing behind Mu Yin, pulls out an armchair and places it behind Mu Yin like a magic trick. Mayan smiles faintly and sits down. Her hands gently pluck the strings of the Tian Mo Qin, the corners of her mouth slightly raised as she looks at Qian Ping. Behind her, Yin Hao Yin, Feng Haiteng, Ru Yin, and Bai Yichen were like four guardian gods, firmly guarding her from behind. Yeah, I'm Jun Mayan. There was a smile on her face, and her face was as beautiful as a flower. Didn't you say that as long as I dared to come, you would consign me to eternal damnation? Qian Ping's body trembled slightly, his eyes widened, but he did not answer the question. Jun Mu Yin. You really are Jun Mu Yin, the woman who was pregnant with the immortal fetus back then, Tisk? Mu Yin frowned slightly, and the smile on her face disappeared. How boring. How could I casually bump into an old acquaintance? Since you're able to recognize me, it means that you were also involved in what happened back then. Qian Ping looked into her bone-chilling eyes and shuddered. He opened his mouth to say something. Mu Yin has already waved her hand, coldly saying, "Kill without mercy." As soon as his voice falls, the people of the Heavenly Secret Unit and the Ink Camp move. In just a moment, the heads of the men in black rolled on the ground. Qian Ping, whose hands and feet have been removed, crawls at Mayan's feet, letting out sorrowful cries and pleas. Mu Yin said indifferently, "Where's Qian Qing?" Master. Master is in the underground palace in the center of the city, cultivating the golden silkworm goo. Spare me, boohoo. I don't want to die. Mu Yin plucked the strings of the zither in her hands, and Qian Ping's head is immediately removed. Chapter 587. Other than nurturing spies, the Secret Division also recruited skilled craftsmen. One of them had developed an extremely powerful thunder flame. It's just that the people of the Tianji unit don't like to use this, but that bunch of uncouth guys from the Ink Camp really like it. Once they heard that Mu Yin allowed them to use the thunder fire, each and every one of them immediately became excited as if they were injected with chicken blood. Dozens of people rushed to the center of the city, under the shocked gazes of the surviving commoners and doctors. Suddenly, boom, rumble, rumble, dozens of loud noises resounded, the earth quaked, the mountains swayed, and the houses collapsed. This huge power scared everyone so much that their faces turned pale. Not long after, a few figures rushed out of the thick smoke as if their butts were on fire. Every single one of them was covered in dirt, looking indescribably pathetic. Who are they? Are you tired of living? You actually dare to make a move in Lotus Town? Mu Yin smiled and looked at the old man in the lead. Dr. Qian, long time no see. How have you been? Ru Yin, who was standing behind Mu Yin, looked at the old man's face that was covered in ash, and only his eyes were white. She couldn't help but burst out laughing. Looks like godly Dr. Qian isn't too unharmed. If you didn't tell me, I would have thought that you were a beggar. Qian Qing's line of sight falls firmly on Mayan's face. After a long time, he enunciates each word. June. Mu. Face. It's really you. However, as soon as he opened his mouth, a puff of black smoke suddenly sprayed out. His original imposing manner of gritting his teeth suddenly became somewhat comical. Ha 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 ha. A group of people from the ink camp couldn't bear it any longer, holding their stomachs as they laugh until they fall. Dr. Qian, how did the thunder god fire taste just now? Do you want to try 2 more? What miracle, Dr. Qian? I think Qian roast pig is more reliable. Ha 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 ha. Money roasted pig, that's the truth. It's just that this pig is black and stinky from head to toe. I don't want to taste it. As a divine doctor, Qian Qing had always been revered by people all these years, so when had he ever suffered such humiliation? His face contorted. However, he quickly calmed down, took the towel handed over by his subordinate, and wiped off the black ash on his face. After Qian Qing wiped away the soot, a familiar face appeared. The killing intent in the depths of Mayan's eyes slowly diffuses. Back then, it was this person who used the excuse of diagnosing her. She sold the news that she was pregnant with the fetus of immortal spirit to Gong Qianxue. From then on, she fell into an endless hell, eternally tormented by pain and regret. After wiping away the dirt on her face, Qian Qing recovered her sage-like demeanor and said with a leisurely smile, June Mayan, it's really been a long time. This old man really didn't expect that the weak and pitiful little girl from back then would actually grow to such an extent. This old man really feels gratified for you, Mu Yin said lightly. After so many years, it's really hard for Dr. Qian to remember me. How could I forget? That was the first and only immortal spirit fetus that this old man had ever felt. Before that, this old man had always thought that the secret technique passed down in my family was fake. Miracle Dr. Qian was still smiling as he said, this is also the fate between you, me, and the divine fetus. Since we have reunited today, don't you intend to let me see the child from back then? I'm sure he must have grown into a handsome little boy by now, right? Chapter 588. Mayan's fingers suddenly press down on the Tian Mo Qin. The zither makes a humming sound. Her eyes are as deep and serene as the cold pools of hell, bottomless. The raging hatred from her past life rushes up like a tide. The strings are gently plucked, and the melodious sound of the zither is heard. The mist-dispersing clouds, skill quietly circulates along with her internal force. The raging hatred in Mayan's heart, as well as the uncontrollable desire to massacre, are also suppressed back to their original positions. A lazy smile slowly spreads out on her lips. Qian Qing, do you really think I don't know that you were the one who informed Gong Qianxue that I was pregnant with an immortal fetus? Back then, she pretended to care for me and took pity on me. She investigated my identity and whereabouts, and then sold me to Gong Qianxue. That's why Gong Qianxue bribed the Su family and wanted to take away the child from my belly. Am I right, godly Dr. Qian? The gentle smile on Qian Qing's face vanishes without a trace in a split second. Sure enough, you already know what happened back then. A cruel smile appears on his face. But what can you do even if you know? The one who wants your child is Yinwu continent's #1 genius, Jingchang country's most powerful princess, Gong Qianxue. She's even a brilliant disciple of the Heavenly Road sect. She took a fancy to the child in your belly. That's your honor. It's the same now. As long as you give me your child, I guarantee that in the future, whether you want a treasure, power, status, or a rapid increase in strength, it will all be as easy as turning over your hand. He still hasn't finished his words. The sound of the zither under Mayan's hand suddenly changes, clanging golden spears. Hundreds of cold lights shoot towards Qin. Qin's cultivation is extremely high, but facing such frightening internal force blades, he can't hide. In just the blink of an eye, there are countless wounds on his body. At the same time, the swords of the Ink Camp and the Tianji unit are suddenly unsheathed, pointing straight at Qin. Mayan's lazy but cold voice comes through the air. Listening to you speak for even a moment longer makes me sick. Qin, I think you'd better shut your mouth for me forever. Qin sneers, Jun Mayan. I advise you not to refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Hand over the child, and you still have a chance to live. Otherwise, do you really think you have a chance of winning with just these people? After saying that, he pinched his fingers together and blew on them. The corpse soldiers on the west side of the town, who were originally standing there like puppets, immediately rushed over and surrounded Mu Yin and the others. Qin laughed heartily and said, Jun Mayan, no matter how many people you have under your command, could it be more than half of the common people of Lotus City? Besides, the underground palace of Lotus Flower City has been destroyed. The princess must have already received the news. Very soon, someone will come over and capture all of you in one fell swoop. Seeing that the girl in front of him didn't say anything, he felt a chill run down his spine. Qin Xingwei became more and more pleased with himself. I'll give you one more chance. As long as you hand over that child, I promise I'll definitely plead for leniency in front of the princess and spare your life. You have to think it through. You can have more children in the future, but you only have one chance to live and prosper. Don't tell me that your child's life is more important than your own. Mu Yin lifts her eyes, a smile on the corner of her mouth, but her eyes are incomparably cold. Unfortunately, I want your life even more. Qin's face changed, and he finally flew into a rage out of humiliation. However, this time, without waiting for him to say anything, Mu Yan's words are like an order. Chapter 589. Qin only feels a mouthful of blood stifled in his heart, but he doesn't care about the Ink Camp and the Tianji unit's attack. The Ink Camp and the Tianji unit have a lot of people, but can they outnumber the corpse soldiers? Their cultivation is higher than the corpse soldiers, but can it be higher than these peak heaven stage and early pre-celestial guards by his side? He has already inquired about it, and these people have only been following Mayan for a year and a half. Originally, these people were just slaves in Wanren Ku, or those with very ordinary qualifications. It's only been a year and a half. How much progress can they make? Qin is calm and unperturbed as he looks at Mayan, his gaze blazing. When this woman's subordinates are all killed, she'll cry and crawl at his feet, and hand over the child formed from the immortal fetus. Thump, thump. Suddenly, two heads roll to his feet, carrying a strong smell of blood. Qin frowns and kicks one away. These must be those useless corpse soldiers. Uncultivated corpse soldiers are useless. Just a few hits and they'll be wasted. Qin is about to kick the second head away, when he suddenly stops. His eyes widen a little. Then he looks incredulously at the face that's close at hand. This face is covered in blood, a pair of eyes wide open, the whole face full of alarm and disbelief. But this clearly isn't the face of a corpse soldier, but it's the guard by his side. That's a peak heaven stage guard. Qin suddenly looks up, and his figure suddenly freezes. No, impossible. This is absolutely impossible. He doesn't know when it started, but the guards by his side have already been reduced by half. As for the corpse soldiers, they were beheaded one after another as if they were chopping vegetables. With a thump, a corpse falls towards Qin. A long gash is split open on his stomach, and blood gurgles out. The guard grabs Qin's hand and shouts, "Save me! Save me!" Qin cries out in alarm and suddenly shakes off the guard. Very soon, the Ink Camp people rush up, and their swords fall, cutting off the guard's head. That's a heaven stage, even a pre-celestial expert. How? How could they be so vulnerable? Qian Qing lets out an almost hysterical roar. Then, melodious music slowly drifted into his ears. The music was clearly so beautiful and pleasant to listen to. However, in Qian Qing's ears, it caused his entire body to feel hot and uneasy, and he was utterly unable to properly condense his profound energy. On the contrary, the people of the Ink Camp and the Heavenly Secret Unit, listening to the sound of the zither, it's as if they're listening to the Imperial Edict. The more they fight, the braver they become. Qian Qing's lifeless gaze slowly shifts to Mu Yan's hand. The girl's hand was so beautiful, as white as jade, with well-proportioned joints, slender and slender. When he gently plucked the strings, it was as if he was using a feather to pluck the heartstrings of a person. As he moved his fingers, beautiful musical notes flowed out and danced in the air. But it was precisely this pair of slender, jade-like hands and this beautiful and melodious music that led to an unimaginable massacre. Level 3 Shun Musician Skill, Graceful Feather Dress. AoE Support Skill, using the sound of the zither to lock onto allies and enemies. Within a quarter of an hour, the strength of their own members would increase by 30%, while the strength of the enemy would decrease by 30%. What did that mean? In other words, he forcibly pulled Qian Qing's Xiantian level guards to heaven level. Chapter 590. In addition, the Ink Camp and the Tianji unit have practiced the formation and cooperation countless times. Thus, in Qian Qing's mind, the formidable defensive force, they were cleanly chopped down like withered twigs and rotten wood. When he's kicked in the butt by Guan Hu and falls to the ground, his brain still hasn't reacted. He keeps muttering, "Impossible. How is this possible? How is this possible?" His gaze suddenly turns to Mu Yan. His lips tremble for a long time, unable to say a complete sentence. You? Who are you? Why? How can she achieve such a frightening result just by relying on the sound of the zither? Defeating the strong with the weak? Defeating the many with the few? Defeating a pre-celestial with the heaven stage? Just because of a musician's zither? Are you kidding me? How could there be such a powerful musician in this world? Mu Yan's fingers pluck, and the sound of the zither stops. She stands up and steps towards Qian Qing. Qian Qing is so scared that he suddenly falls back, using his hands and feet to desperately crawl backwards. No, you can't kill me. I'm the pavilion master of Xian Medical Pavilion. I'm a famous genius doctor. If you kill me, Xian Medical Pavilion won't let you off. Xian Medical Pavilion? Ru Yan sneers. Oh, if Dr. Qian didn't mention Xian Medical Pavilion, I would have forgotten. On our way to Lotus City, we just happened to pass by the headquarters of Xian Medical Pavilion. The hands of our brothers were itching, so we took over that Xian Medical Pavilion. Qian Qing's eyes widen. His body stiffens for a long time. Then he screams, "Impossible! How is this possible? I raised the poison men in Xian Medical Pavilion. It's my blood and sweat for decades. How is this possible?" Hee, those poison men, my brothers chopped them into pieces and fed them to your disciples and granddisciples. Guan Hu grins. I really didn't expect that those poison men of yours would be so fierce. They only tasted a few mouthfuls, and those disciples and granddisciples of yours would all be dead. Oh, there's also those rare medicinal herbs that you've collected. It just so happens that our Nether Flame Army's Immortal Battalion is in urgent need of medicinal herbs, so we'll gladly accept it. Qian Qing's body trembles like a sieve, her mouth incessantly muttering, It can't be, my Xian Medical Pavilion. How could it be destroyed so easily?" Mayan says unhurriedly, "Godly Dr. Qian, you just said that you want the people of Xian Medical Pavilion to kill us?" No, I'm talking nonsense." Qian Qing abruptly comes back to his senses. In a split second, his face is covered in snot and tears. He crawls over to Mu Yan and keeps crying, "Miss June, please spare me." Back then, it was Gong Qinxue who instigated it. I was only coerced by her. Yes, it was she who coerced me to tell her all about you. For the sake of your miscarriage, I beg you, please spare my life. Woo woo woo. Mu Yin looked down at him, begging for mercy like a dog. After a long silence, she said, Dr. Qian, do you really want to live? Yes, I want to live. As long as Miss June spares me, even if I have to work like a cow or a horse, I will be willing. Ah, there's no need to work like a cow or a horse. Mayan chuckles. But there's one thing that I really need Dr. Qian's help with. Saying that, she unhurriedly walks over to Dr. Yu and the others. Chapter 591. Mayan's expression turns gentle, softly saying, Doctors, don't be afraid. You've all been implicated by me. I promise I won't let anything happen to you. With a flick of her wrist, dozens of porcelain bottles are placed in front of them. Doctors, are you willing to believe me? Drink this bottle of draft, and I'll take out the mother goo from your bodies. Dr. Yu and the others look at each other, then pick up the draft without hesitation and drink it all in one gulp. Almost as soon as these people drink the draft, their stomachs rumble, and their faces distort from the pain. However, before they can cry out in pain, Mayan has already moved. Her movements are very fast, cutting open a person's stomach in almost a breath's time. She takes out the black worms inside and puts them in a jade box. It's unknown if it's because of the life-saving draft she just drank, or the fact that Mayan's cuts aren't big, so those wounds quickly heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. After a short few dozen breaths, Mayan has taken out all the goo worms from the doctor's stomachs. But these people who had their stomachs cut open are completely unscathed. Even the wound of the first one, Dr. Yu, has already completely healed. These people can't even react to what just happened. Madam Enchantress, your medical skills are truly superb. When they suddenly wake up, Dr. Yu and the others all kneel down, looking at Mayan with eyes full of worship. Thank you for saving our lives. Even if the person before them is a budding girl. In terms of age, Mayan is still too young to be their granddaughter. However, at this very moment, Mayan's medical skills, her strength, and her character have already conquered all the doctors present. Mayan smiles at them, then turns around and returns to Qian Qing. Qian Qing looks at the jade box holding the goo worms in her hands, and her complexion turns deathly pale. June Mayan, what do you want to do? Do what? Mayan tilts her head, revealing a somewhat innocent smile. Of course it's the thing that godly Dr. Qian likes to do to others the most. Qian Qing trembles and screams, June Mayan, don't act recklessly. These mother goo in your hands are the last golden silkworm larvae in Qianshue's hands. If you kill them all, Gong Qianshue, she absolutely won't let you off. Oh, really? That's great. It just so happens that I never intended to let her off. Saying that, Mu Yin slowly opens the jade box. Qian Qing let out a shrill cry as the profound energy within her body suddenly circulated, and she was about to flee. However, just as he flew 10 feet away, then he felt a sharp pain on his forehead. Bai Qin, who was guarding behind him, had kicked him back. Qian Qing cries out in pain, rolls a few times, and returns in front of Mu Yin. Mu Yin squatted down and said casually, Miracle Dr. Qian, I advise you not to move around. Otherwise, I won't be responsible if you accidentally pull off an intestine when you cut open your stomach and put in the goo worm. Qian Qing desperately struggled to escape, but her body suddenly felt as if it was filled with lead, completely unable to move. Tears and snot streamed down his face as he pleaded loudly, Spare me. I won't dare to do it again. The expression on Mayan's face turns cold inch by inch. Qian Qing, don't you like to cut open people's bellies and take away their children? How can you not be happy that your stomach was cut open today? Chapter 592. Using your identity as a doctor, you want to use other people's children in exchange for your own bright future. You even told Gong Qianshue that if she ate my child, her skills would greatly improve. The cause of everything is this animal doctor with a human face but a beast's heart. In her previous life, she lost her child, lost everything, and fell into the most painful abyss. But this man? Using the resources he obtained from Gong Qianxue, he made a meteoric rise, becoming a godly doctor that everyone in Yinwu continent admires. Heh, such a cruel and unscrupulous man, treating other people's lives as worthless. But when his own life is threatened, he cries and snot, incessantly begging for mercy. But Qin Qing, what qualifications do you have to be forgiven? Miss, why don't you let me do it? Guan, who is eager to give it a try. This subordinate likes to cut open people's stomachs the most. We can do it too. We can do it too. The other people from the ink camp are also in high spirits. Mu Yan's taut emotions, immersed in hatred, suddenly relax. She still hasn't spoken. Among the citizens of Lotus Town, a commoner suddenly steps out, gritting his teeth and saying, "This fairy doctor, can you let me cut open this person's stomach? Can you let me put these goo worms in with my own hands?" My child was thrown into the pile of corpse soldiers by this group of bastards. Not even his bones were left. That middle-aged woman chokes with sobs as she speaks, her hateful eyes unwaveringly glaring at Qin Qing. My husband has been turned into a monster that's neither human nor ghost. I wish I could eat his flesh raw, gnaw his bones. Me too. Fairy doctor, I beg you, let us do it. Mu Yin raises the corner of her mouth, full of interest as she looks at Qin Qing, who has already turned deathly pale from fright. She chuckles and says, "Dr. Qin, you see, a lot of people want to serve you. If I don't fulfill their wishes, wouldn't I be letting down everyone's good intentions?" She raises her head, handing the dagger and the jade box containing the goo worms to the middle-aged woman. That middle-aged woman sees that Mu Yin has really agreed, and her face flushes with excitement. She takes the dagger, and without hesitation, she slashes open Qin Qing's stomach. Qin Qing immediately let out a miserable howl like a pig being slaughtered as he watched the goo worms being stuffed into his stomach. The intense pain and the fear of death makes Qin Qing unable to help but curse, "Jun Mayan, you poisonous woman, you won't have a good death. I am Gong Qianshue's person. If you dare to kill me, Gong Qianxue will definitely not let you off." "Ah, Jun Mayan, you don't be too pleased with yourself. Gong Qianxue already knows that you're the one who was pregnant with the immortal fetus. She definitely won't let you and your child off. Just wait to be refined into elixirs by Gong Qianxue and eaten alive." Ugh. Qin Qing hadn't finished his insane threat. Suddenly, someone grabbed his chin. Yin Haoyin sneered and pulled out his tongue. He sheathed his saber and slashed down. Immediately, blood splattered everywhere. He had always remembered that the young mistress had said that she didn't want to hear him speak anymore. But a moment later, all the goo worms were sent into Qin Qing's stomach. Qin Qing's mouth was full of blood as he struggled on the ground. Each and every one of the common people of Lotus City was still filled with righteous indignation. Their hatred and anger had yet to dissipate. One by one, they rushed forward, punching and kicking Qin Qing. There was even someone who directly chopped off his hands that wanted to resist. Chapter 593. As the doctor's internal force revolves, his body dries up at a speed visible to the naked eye. On the contrary, his belly swells up high, even higher than any of the doctors just now. Seeing that Qin Qing has no way out, and will slowly die in hellish pain and torture. Only then will the doctors and the people be satisfied. "Miss, in this Lotus Town, we only found Dr. Yu and the others. Chang Yu, Chen Xingfeng, and Dr. Song aren't here. I'm afraid they're still in Gong Qianshue's hands." Ru Yin wordly reports, "If Gong Qianxue uses Dr. Song and the others to threaten us, I'm afraid that our actions will be restrained from taking action. Moreover, we still haven't found out where Gong Qianshue's real stronghold is." Hearing this, Mayan doesn't speak for a long time. Her line of sight shifts slightly and falls on the western sky. The corner of her mouth hooks up into a cold arc. "Don't worry, there's a place where someone must know Gong Qianshue's whereabouts. Moreover, doesn't Gong Qianxue like to use hostages to threaten us? Then we'll get more hostages and see who's the one threatening who in the end." Hearing this, Ru Yan's eyes brightened. Miss, where are the hostages you spoke of? Before Mu Yin could reply, several people of Lotus Flower Town walked in front of her. Madam Enchantress of Medicine, many thanks for your life-saving grace. Everyone in our Lotus Flower Town will never forget your great kindness and kindness for generations to come. These people kneeling on the ground are representatives chosen by the people of Lotus Town. Each one of them is a person of virtue and prestige, and their age is more than enough to be Mayan's grandfather. How could Mayan dare to accept such a big gift? She quickly helps them up. Who knows that these people are determined not to get up? Instead, they ask with red eyes, Madam Enchantress of Medicine, just now, listening to the conversation between you and that beast Qianqing, we seem to have heard that the disaster that my Lotus Town has suffered today was caused by Gong Qianxue? Mayan's movements pause, and after a long while, she nods, yes, Gong Qianxue should be using Lotus Town as her place to raise corpse soldiers. She's the princess of your Jingcheng country. What are your plans? Bah! How could that disgusting, poisonous woman be worthy of being Jingcheng country's princess? Their Gong family also doesn't deserve to own Jingcheng country. The old man in the lead gnashed his teeth and roared, Madam Enchantress, we know that you and that Gong Qianxue have an irreconcilable enmity. We, the people of Lotus Town, are willing to lend you a hand. We must publicize Gong Qianxue's vicious actions to all the people of Jingcheng country. We will make Gong Qianxue lose all standing and reputation. Let the Gong family's dynasty in Jingcheng country be completely destroyed. Jingcheng country, imperial capital, Onlong City. Miss, this is the imperial palace of Jingcheng country. Ru Yin blinks her eyes and says in disbelief, don't tell me that when you said to capture more hostages than Gong Qianxue, you mean to capture them in the imperial palace of Jingcheng country? Mu Yin slightly raises her eyebrows. What? You don't dare to make a move? This is the royal family of Jingcheng country. Ru Yin is so excited that her face turns slightly red. I heard that the Gong family has been the ruler of Jingcheng country for hundreds of years. There are countless experts in the imperial palace, but no one has ever been able to shake their foundation. The corner of Mu Yan's mouth raises into a slight smile. So, you guys don't dare to make a move? Chapter 594. Are we going to usurp the throne in Jingcheng country? Are we going to be rebels and traitors? That's great. This is in line with the style of our ink camp. Piak. A slap landed on Guan Hu's head. Feng Haiteng said coldly, if you don't know how to talk, don't talk nonsense. He actually compared their young miss to a traitor. Was this guy tired of living? Guan Hu gloomily wanted to refute, but he saw that the one who hit him was Feng Haiteng. He immediately looked at Yin Haoyin carefully and swallowed his words. This Feng Haiteng was their leader's favorite person. How could they dare to offend her? At this moment, Ru Yin seems as if she has just woken up from a dream. Her face is dizzy. My God, we only have a little more than 100 people coming this time. And you actually want to destroy the imperial palace of Jingcheng country and take the royal family of Jingcheng country hostage? I'm not dreaming, am I? Heh, Miss Ruyan. Only when you succeed like this, do you feel refreshed. This time, Mu Yin only brought by Yi Qin, Ru Yin, Yin Haoyin, Feng Haiteng, Old Tao, the leaders of the various camps, as well as the most elite of the three camps. Because only with a small number of people could they sneak into Onlong City without anyone noticing. But it was just as Ru Yin said. If these 100 people want to take down Jingcheng country's imperial palace, it's just like a dream. One must know that there are a lot of experts in Jingcheng country's royal palace. There were more than 10 Xiantian realm martial artists. How could they succeed? At night, the imperial palace of Jingcheng country is still brightly lit, singing and dancing to celebrate peace. It was obviously so noisy, and there were bursts of music. However, suddenly, a strand of zither music drifted into everyone's ears in a leisurely manner. The sound of the zither was so beautiful that it seemed to be able to penetrate deep into one's bones. Your First Highness, what music is this? How could it be so wonderful? Jingchang country's great Prince Gong Qinya's reading companion couldn't help but ask with an intoxicated expression. The other people in the palace were already in a trance, and their eyes were gradually blurred, as if they had lost focus. Gong Qinya's eyes were red as he staggered outside. Who? Which beauty was playing the zither? Quickly come into this prince's arms, and let this prince dote on you. Suddenly, his study companion cried out in alarm, Your Highness, look, that person is at the top of the Palace of Heavenly Purity. The Hall of Heavenly Purity is the tallest building in the Imperial Palace of Jingcheng Country. The roof of the hall was pointed. The high roof almost reached the clouds. But even from such a distance, that pure white slender figure was still so clear. The bright moonlight sprinkled on the top of the peak, as if plated the figure with a lustrous white light. He was so far away that he couldn't even see his face clearly. But just a glance at her ethereal, fairy-like figure and her graceful movements that seemed as if she were about to soar into the sky was enough to enchant Gong Qinya. Which beauty has arrived? Gong Qinya's voice is too loud as he shouts. At home is Jingcheng Country's eldest prince, Gong Qinya. As long as you're willing to come down and accompany this prince for a night of spring, this prince can guarantee that you'll enjoy endless glory, splendor, and wealth. However, the people above did not seem to hear him at all. The sound of the zither was still spreading. From the beginning, it was only around the Palace of Heavenly Purity. Slowly, the entire imperial palace seemed to be shrouded in the sound of the zither. Chapter 595. Guards! Gong Qinya shouts, Quickly send someone to invite that beauty down for me. Hearing this, the guards beside Gong Qinya immediately soar up. Each and every one of them has a cultivation above heaven's stage. Climbing the Hall of Heavenly Purity is absolutely as easy as turning one's hand. However, these people have just reached the roof, not waiting for them to approach. The sound of the zither abruptly changes, turning into a powerful army. In a split second, countless sharp blades come whistling out. Puff, puff, puff. With a few sudden sounds, these guards are pierced by the invisible blades, turning into a hornet's nest. One by one, they fall from the roof. The last thing they see before they die is a beautiful girl, smiling brightly under the moonlight. That smile is bright and holy, like a fairy that has fallen from the ninth heaven to the mortal world. And the girl's soft and sweet-sounding whisper, the performance of Floating Like a Dream, is almost finished. It's time to start, graceful feather. This scene almost stupefies everyone. Gong Qinya didn't expect that so many of his powerful subordinates would be completely wiped out in the blink of an eye. Who is this woman? Why did she suddenly appear here? Gong Qinya's heart thumps, and he's about to have someone alert the entire imperial palace. Suddenly, he sees a white figure, like a floating cloud, flying down from the sky above the Hall of Heavenly Purity. When he sees the girl's countenance up close, Gong Qinya's breathing almost stops. So beautiful! How could there be such a beautiful person in this world? Gong Qinya murmurs, reaching out towards Mayan. His eyes are filled with intoxication and greed. Beauty, I don't care who you are. As long as you are willing to become this prince's favored concubine, this prince will forgive your crime of disrespect just now. How about it? His hand was about to come into contact with that delicate skin. Suddenly, a cold light flashes. Gong Qinya immediately feels a sharp pain in his hand. He doesn't even have time to react before he sees his hand, which was about to touch Mayan, fall from his wrist. Blood suddenly gushes out like a fountain. Gong Qinya lets out a blood-curdling scream and is supported by the reading companion behind him. Who the hell are you? The reading companion roared angrily. Do you know who this person is? You actually dare to hurt Jingcheng Country's first prince? Are you tired of living? He did not finish his sentence. Suddenly, countless heaven-shaking battle cries came from all directions. From afar, one can hear Jingcheng Country's imperial palace's guards shouting in anger and alarm. Who are you people? Don't you have eyes? This is the imperial palace of Jingcheng Country, and you actually dare to trespass. Ah. Hee hee, We barged in because we knew this was the Gong family's nest. Why? Why can't I use my profound energy? Ah. In a short period of time, the entire imperial palace was in chaos. Even the emperor of Jingcheng country and the other princes have been woken up from their dreams and hurried over. Seeing the injury on Gong Chenya's hand, Jingcheng country's emperor Gong Yanhai sees his eldest son screaming miserably with a broken hand. He immediately exclaims, what happened to you? Your Majesty, it's her. It's this woman who hurt His Highness. Gong Chenya's reading companion points at Mayan and shouts, those thieves who broke into the imperial palace must have been brought in by this witch. The rank 3, floating like a dream, was similar to graceful feather, a skill that could be said to be a heaven-defying cheat. However, these two skills could only be activated with spiritual energy. After using these two skills in a row tonight, the spiritual power in Mu Yan's body has been completely consumed. He wouldn't be able to use it for the time being. However, Mu Yan did not care, because her profound qi could still be used. The royal family members in front of them had already become turtles in a jar. Who the hell are you people? Gong Yanhai seemed to have just come to his senses. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.